Well, we'd like to welcome everybody to this second webinar discussing the relationship and the new partnership between AirData and Autel Robotics. My name is Keith Gerhardt. I am the head of sales for Autel Robotics, and I would like to welcome everyone. I would like to also encourage everyone. This is an engaged discussion, if you will. We have the chat application here in Zoom, where at any point during the presentation, please ask questions, and the presenters will be monitoring this and try to answer your questions and make this as much a two-way or uh, participation as possible. Also, would love to know where everybody is from. So please let us know in that chat box where you're joining us from, and it'll be good to have that information. This team that you're seeing here is really kind of spread out all over the country, but we're enjoying the season, and we look forward to going more into detail about this new relationship. Um, if I may, one of the things that I need to do as I'm scrambling a little bit here, pardon me. I'm going to pull up a little bit of a presentation here. That's not the one I wanted. Bear with me, I apologize, folks. A little bit on the fly. So if I may, I'll share my screen. And what I'd like to do before we get into more detail about AirData is, if I may give you a little bit of an overview of Autel Robotics and specifically the Evo 2 series, if you're not familiar. I'll make this um, as brief but as informative as I can. So first of all, a little bit about the Evo 2 series. The series is basically built around a single platform, which is our Evo 2 series drone. It's a very dynamic platform, and we'll get into a little bit of specifics about that. But this platform actually comes with 3 interchangeable payloads. We go all the way from a half-inch sensor with 8K video capability to a 1-inch sensor with 6K capability and 20 megapixel resolution on the still camera. And then, of course, we have our Evo 2 Dual, which is a combination of that 8K RGB with a FLIR boson thermal sensor at 640 over 512 with 30 hertz refresh. And frankly, that is the highest resolution, highest refresh rate thermal sensor that you can get on a civilian drone. So we'll go into a little bit more detail as far as why that's fantastic and how working with AirData that will really give you a fantastic combination solution. The Autel Robotics is a much larger company than just simply our drone division. We are a part of a much larger organization, Autel Technologies Group, and our origins are in the automotive diagnostics industry, where we have been developing groundbreaking sensor technology in automotive. And a lot of that technology has been a crossroads over to the robotics industry. We began the robotics division back in 2015 and have progressively been moving and becoming more innovative all the time. And then the introduction of the Evo 2 series back earlier this year has really been not only groundbreaking, but disruptive in the off-the-shelf drone solution side of the UAS industry. A couple of key things that are very specific and distinctive about the Evo 2 airframe. First of all, best-in-class flight time at 40 minutes. For a foldable portable solution. And that would be 40 minutes flight time on the 8K and the Pro 6K version, 38 minutes on the dual. And that's simply because it takes more energy to be operating those multiple sensors on that drone. Also, omnidirectional obstacle avoidance. So you can kind of see on those images right there, those 2 eyes looking at you. Well, we have 12 of those all the way around the drone, creating obstacle avoidance system through computer technology. In addition to that obstacle avoidance, we also have optical flow and ultrasonic sensors on the bottom of the drone that helps a great deal in GPS denied environments as we can transition from exterior flight to interior flight with a tremendous amount of security and stability. So really, safety is absolutely the ultimate key in a rapid deployment platform. Significant range at over 5 miles. We also have kind of playfully named our fast mode ludicrous speed. But if you were in such a situation of having to move from one environment to the next as quickly as possible, let's say if you are in a search and rescue situation and so on, and you needed to get to someplace quickly to put eyes on the scene at 45 miles per hour, and especially if you're using that dual solution, you've got incredible resolution and able to rapidly deploy at the point of data that you have to. And of course, I mentioned that these are swappable payloads. What that means for you is that if you purchased one of the drones and one of the payload solutions, but wanted to upgrade or have an alternative solution, you can do so without having to purchase another airframe. And so this adds value and flexibility to the platform, and we think that's key. I also want to talk a little bit about some of the distinctive points about the drone outside of just our rapid deployment flight time and the omnidirectional. Most importantly, adding to that rapid deployment capability is our controller or how we manage our ability to connect to the drone. Our remote control is a built-in 3.3-inch OLED screen, which means that you do not have to have a smart device to operate this drone. You can get on the scene within less than 40 seconds. You can put the drone in the air, put eyes on the situation. Now, you can connect a smart device, and you can do that hot while in the air. But this allows you to get moving quickly, and then by connecting a smart device, you have access to our Autel Explore app. You have enhanced modes, also our built-in native mission planning software, which is also in the Autel Explore app, which again is dynamic. You can save your missions, but it also doesn't require you having a third-party solution for mission planning. The controller also has up to a 4-hour battery lifetime. And again, this is really a key factor in our rapid deployment. Let me also mention a couple of other key aspects of the Evo 2 series, and that is that we do not have flight restrictions. This is incredibly important because if you're in a situation where you need to be out in the field and rapidly up, you don't need to come to Autel to ask for permission to fly your drone in the airspace that you need to operate in. You simply need to be working with the FAA, which is very straightforward. You may already have a COA, or you might have a LANC authorization or a waiver, and so you are up and moving very quickly. First responders, as an example, find this extremely beneficial as other solutions require them to go to the manufacturer, and that manufacturer may not even be in our continental airspace. So a rapid deployment, eyes on the situation, all extremely well. And as I mentioned, the omnidirectional obstacle avoidance for the safety and safe, stable operation of the drone. One thing I will also mention to you is that based on our redundancy in our drone with IMU, as well as the other electronics within the drone, along with the obstacle avoidance, we are the most stable operating off-the-shelf foldable portable drone in the industry, up to level 8 wind stability. That means if gusts up to 48 miles an hour, you can be operating the Evo 2. That is not possible with any other foldable solution in this space. So this is a quick overview of what we'll be talking about today. And as I had indicated, you have those 3 different payload solutions, and they are extremely easy to do. Off the bench, you can probably swap out a payload in less than 4 minutes and off to the races. So I appreciate the time just to give a quick overview. And now if I can, I'll turn this over to Trevor, and let's see how this all works together with AirData.
Perfect. Hey, Keith, thank you so much for the introduction. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on a Monday morning. My name is Trevor Hall. I'm with the AirData team. I have a couple other team members from AirData here, as well as Autel. Like Keith said, if you guys have any questions as we proceed here during the webinar, feel free to drop them in the chat section and someone from the team will stop me and we'll go ahead and take care of those. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the presentation here I have pulled up. I have a couple of slides I want to take you guys through, and then we're going to actually jump into our software and I'll show you how it all works. So who is AirData? AirData started in 2015 as Healthy Drones, and basically started out as a flight analysis platform. And it evolved since then. We now have over 170,000 users in over 230 countries, close to 15 million flight logs uploaded to date at this time. And we've become more of a whole fleet management solution. And here on the next slide, I'll show you some of the features that we offer at AirData. I think overall, what we're trying to achieve here is to help you guys become safer pilots and to be more informed about what's going on with your Autel, Evo, and any other aircraft that you may be using. And these features that you're seeing here on the screen are some of the ways that we can achieve that. Let's go ahead and we're going to jump into the actual software here. Perfect. So you guys should be looking at the home screen. This is the home page of your AirData dashboard. On this page, I won't go through too much of this right now, but this is what's most urgent when you're logging into your AirData account, and you can basically see different snapshots of our website. So if you see down here on the bottom left, we have an alert system where we can notify you if things are happening with your pilots, your drones. You can see the urgent maintenance that needs to be conducted right here. And news we have on the right-hand side, your recent flights in the top right. Any live streaming, that was our last webinar that we were able to do. We talked about our live streaming solution and a little bit about our OK to Fly system. This is your typical weather, but in addition to that, we can see some key areas that will help us drone pilots, such as the various satellites at different altitudes. So if I click on that little eye, we'll see our projected satellites, and then same with the wind. As we know, well, in San Diego, we're not too windy this morning at 0 miles an hour. If it was a wind day, you can see at higher altitudes, it's generally a little windier, and we need to be aware of that if we're out conducting flights. That's our OK to Fly section. You can also access that within our Android and iOS mobile apps. Speaking of our apps, let's actually jump to that screen here. We could, our Android and iOS apps are free to download. And the beauty of that is not only can you use that OK to Fly section, we have checklists that you can complete within the app. You can actually upload your flight logs automatically to AirData with our mobile apps. And I want to talk a little bit about that. We want to make sure that you guys are out there conducting flights and not worrying about whether your flights are coming into AirData. We don't want you to have to constantly go into your Explorer app or whatever other app you may be using and check to see if flights are syncing. So we can automatically retrieve your flight logs if you set it up within our app. If I go down, you can see a couple screenshots from with the app. So the beauty is we do everything on the back end, and all your flights will automatically come into your AirData account. Go ahead and jump back over to that. So from here on the home screen, I want to talk a little bit about the flight logs and some of the data that we can acquire when they come through to our system. When you first navigate to the flight section, you're going to be with an overview screen here. This is an overview of all the flights you have on your account, all of the pilots, all of the drones. We can certainly filter to make it more organized. I can see a display map, flights all around the world. Very cool on this demo account. Go back here. And I want to talk a little bit about maybe organizing your flights. So when you first log in, you're going to see, once you upload your flight logs, you're going to see a list of them here on the left-hand side. And granted, if you see a bunch of dates, you may not understand what's going on. When did I conduct this flight? I can't remember what date it was. You can use what we call groups to keep your flights organized. If you see here that little plus icon, that indicates that this Evo 2 group has been created. You can see 4 flights in that group. Group is a great way to organize flights. Another way is to add tags. If I go ahead and click on this Evo construction flight here. When I do that, it's going to bring it up here in the intersection where I talk
Hey,
about
Trevor.
yes.
So
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. Is there any way you can make the screen a little bit bigger? Everything looks a bit tiny on the Zoom.
Everything. Okay.
I don't know if you want to either
Awesome.
zoom in or maybe make the window bigger.
Are you sure? Are you just looking at the tab I'm sharing for our AirData account, or can you see anything else on the screen?
We can see just that tab, just one browser.
It's just kind of small.
That's better, but now we're missing the left side a little bit. It's cropped.
Okay.
There. That looks good.
Okay. What I can also do is we'll start with that. If it continues to be hard to see, maybe I'll try to adjust and make this on a different screen or something.
Okay. Yeah, that looks good now. Thank you.
Cool. So what I was thinking is that the tabs that we have for you to use, that's a great way to basically identify certain types of flights. So if you can see this green billable, that's flight tag. It's quick and easy to add it to. You click add tag there. And the nice thing about these is, see these colors here on the top left, these 5 colors, I can click on them and it will have just the color of that corresponding tag. So let's say that I want to tag a certain amount of flights as billable. The nice thing about that is not only can I quickly search for my billable flights, but I can also create reports for just a billable tagged group, which is a beautiful way to keep things organized. Lastly, for the organization, I want to show here on the bottom, you can add a flight description. So this, look at a construct flight. We can add a description about this flight if we'd like. And that little guy there, add any notes I want to, and click save. And when I do that, we can also use our advanced search tool up here on the left, this little guy, and you can see many different ways that we can search for various flights. I can search for flight tags. I can search for anything I put in the description. So a couple great ways to keep things organized. All right, now that we've talked about organizing and kind of what this looks like, you're currently looking at this flight here that we have selected. We can see various information about this flight, when it was conducted, the flight air time, the max distance, a couple of images.
Hey, Trevor, sorry to interrupt again. It looks like once you saved the description, it reloaded the page, and now the zoom is back to where it was before.
Sorry about that. Let's. Is that better?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. All right, sorry about that. I'll remember here next time I refresh or save. If we want to one tab here on the right, I want to show you guys actually before I do that. We have a few tabs on the left-hand side of this flight, and then along the top. Along top, I'll quickly go through these just to show you guys kind of what information that we can get with your flight logs. You can see the takeoff location, associated equipment that we used with. Notifications is great for tips that occurred, any warnings throughout the flight. You can see a little display map here. We can click on an HD flight player, which will actually give us a playback of the flight as it occurred with any tips that occurred throughout the flight. So really cool to check that out. Documents, if you want to upload any, maybe you got a COA or something for this flight, you can drag and drop here. That's a great way to keep things organized as well. You can also drop a document to a group. So if you had a COA for a group of flights, you can do that. And right-hand side, if you completed the checklist, it'll be listed right here in this side. Jumping down to the power tab on the left-hand side, this is everything about our battery. And keep in mind, this is just for this flight. This is not this battery in accumulation of all flights. This is the flight that we're looking at. So this is the information that we gather for this flight for battery. See the minutes per battery cells. If there were any deviations, it's great to be aware of those. I'll show you in a little bit how we can automatically be alerted when there's a deviation with the battery so we can stay informed. We have a cell graph here. If there was anything that took place with the cell, we can check that out. Volts and amps and battery info along the right. Jumping down one more, we have our sensor section. So our GPS, our compass, we can see vital information that came through here. If there were any disconnects, we can see down here in this section below. We can get a signal score for the overall flight. A great signal. This Evo flight conducted. GPS. We had great GPS satellites. And then lastly, we have here on the right-hand side. Jumping down one more down here on the left, we have our controls section. This is your rudder response time. So if there was a delay in the rudders, we're going to see it listed here. And then you can see a map if there were any occurrences of that happening. Great, we didn't have anything going on there in that flight. For the weather, you know, for the weather section, I actually conducted a couple of flights recently. As you can see, I have this wind light here. I'm going to pull that up and maybe show you guys one of these flights that I conducted. And the reason why I'm doing this is because you can see that right here, this is our wind speed at 11 miles an hour. This is our ground weather. I want to emphasize that. We get temperature. The beauty of what we can do when we have, well, close to 15 million flight logs uploaded in our system now is we can create aerodynamic profiles for each aircraft. So this aerodynamic profile, jump maybe over here to the wind map, this is created for the Evo 2 specifically. And we can basically see that at, let me scroll down a little here so you guys can see what I'm looking at. You can see that at a lower altitude, the wind speed was a lot lower. And then as we get a little higher in altitude, the wind's up dramatically. We're at about 26 miles an hour here at 393 feet. So beautiful that we can do that. We can see in the altitude profile kind of overall what the wind was doing, what direction, and the speed at various altitudes. That's great for pilot training. It's also great to basically see that wind is often higher at higher altitude. So you don't necessarily want to set your return to home altitude at that 400 feet. I think maybe if we're a beginner pilot, that's kind of what we resort to. And this is a great way to see that maybe isn't the best case for your situation. That's the dome section there. And lastly, we have our media tab here on the left. And you know, I had some good pictures with the construction flight right here. When we're under the media tab, we can see all of the images that we've included for that particular flight. You can see I've uploaded a few of them here. And a nice thing about not just looking at the picture is that we see information about that picture. So the metadata, if you see this arrow here, hopefully you guys can see it. Okay, if I click on that arrow, I can see great information about this particular image that I'm looking at. I can see how high I was when I took the picture. I can see information about the picture itself, the settings I was using, the pitch of the aircraft, a lot of great information there. That's the media section. I think I had an annotation that I wanted to show you guys. An annotation is a great way that we can identify certain parts of an image. So if you see here, I circled this box and I said, need to clear this. So great for basically keeping things organized as well. All right, that is basically what we can take with a flight log. I know I just said a lot of information. If you guys had any quick questions on that, I'd be happy to address. And maybe while we're looking through those, I'll jump to our next section here. So up here on the top, we have equipment. And I think let's go ahead and look at drones first. And we'll select one of these drones here. When you upload a flight log to AirData, we're going to create the profile for you for that drone and for the battery that was used with that flight. You don't need to do anything on your side. We do the work for you. And again, we want you guys to focus on flying, conducting your missions. And we want to make this process as easy as possible for you. We see the various information about the particular aircraft. And I would like to point out this is a demo account. So some of the information we kind of copy over to this account. So you may not see it in its full extent. But we see our usage here. You can see the flight logs associated with this particular aircraft that we're looking at. You can see the history. You can select any of these flights you'd like. And documents if you want to drag and drop a receipt. Maybe you got it repaired or something. This is a great way to get that organized. And if we go down to service, I won't jump to that quite yet. I'll show you. But this is where we can track the maintenance for this particular aircraft. Before I jump into maintenance a little more, I want to jump over to batteries. And you can see here, same thing with the drones, the batteries. We create the profile for you. You can see this has a lot more information. See the serial number for the battery, when last used, and same thing along the top for usage and the other tabs. On the left, let's go down to trends. Now this is a newer battery, so maybe it's not the biggest example for showing you what we gather with a trend. So let me go down to one of these batteries that's a little older. This battery is a few years old, as you can see along the bottom here. I know this is a lot to take in, but I want to basically show you that we can identify that a battery is losing life as it gets older. As we use it more and more, you can see from 2016 to 2018, this battery lost a lot of it. Each of these are data points. I can select any of them and go to that flight, see more information about it. But you see the deterioration of this particular piece of equipment. Same thing with efficiency, deviations. If there were any deviations, we can see that that generally occurs as the battery gets older, more worn out. Temperatures typically rise as the battery gets older. That's exemplified here, as we can see rising temperatures throughout the life of this particular battery. That's great. You know, it's nice to see this on the screen, but what does this mean for you guys as pilots? Ultimately, we want you guys to be able to identify if there's an issue with your drone or your battery or any of your other equipment before something happens. You know, we want to prevent the problems. So we have information like this for you guys to see and analyze in order to fly safer. I mean, at the end of the day, we want you guys to be safer pilots, more informed, and be compliant. And speaking of compliance, I want to show you guys maybe or talk a little bit about the maintenance. And so if we go back up to this the Evo battery we were looking at, and I go to the service tab, we have a few different types of services that we have for you guys to use. We'll call them templates. And this is based off of manufacturer recommendations and our experience. And you can see here, we have a basic batch service due, service due. They're not due yet, but AirData can see that this battery has 4 charges on it, 8 flights, 108 minutes of airtime. And we track all of this information for you. Again, you guys don't have to input anything in here. Because you're uploading the flight logs to AirData, we can track your equipment and see when it needs to be maintained. So this is a quick way to come to see if a piece of equipment needs maintenance. We have our maintenance tab here. And this is where you're going to see all of the maintenance for all of the equipment on your AirData account. I know it's a lot to take in when you first add it, but you can certainly filter by battery or by drones. We have our service list. I'd just like to show you guys real quick. These are the different types of service that I was mentioning. So the basic read down through the full back, and you can see information about that particular service. Very cool. You can customize a service for your operational needs if you want to alter it a bit, by all means. And also you can create a one-off service. So maybe you upgraded the firmware or something. You can see down here, someone did do that. You would just click on add one-off service, and you can save it. So keep track of all the maintenance that occurs. And furthermore, you can actually create a report with all of the maintenance that's been conducted on your batteries, on your drones, for compliance purposes, record keeping, all that good stuff. Okay, I've been talking a little while. Has there been any questions that's come up? Is there anything that you guys feel like I need to stop and go back over, or should I keep rolling? I'm happy to keep going, but I want you guys to feel free to stop me if need be. Let's see here. We're going to go ahead and jump through to the alert section. So with our alerts, I mentioned this in the beginning, and this is kind of a good segue. I mentioned the maintenance. We're talking about maintenance, and we can be notified when maintenance is due on any of our equipment. Under our alert section, you can see on the left-hand side, these are alerts we've set up. In the middle, these are the ones that have been triggered. Add an alert, pretty simple. Top left-hand corner, add alert there. We have 3 different types of alerts. Because we're talking about maintenance, I want to jump over here, give this as an example. So if we want to be alerted when maintenance is due, say basic maintenance is due, and then we can choose under equipment, we can choose all equipment, or I can just choose the Evo2 back here, and then the recipients. So who do I want to be notified when this maintenance is due? I can add any recipients that I want here. You can see my email, and I can choose to notify the pilot in command as well. So they get a notification if that maintenance is due on that flight that they just conducted, if we pass that threshold. So quickly to set up an alert. Coming over here real quick to the equipment types of alerts we can set up. We can be notified when the battery temperature exceeds a certain amount, when or it's less than a certain amount, and you can edit these fields well. We have 140 degrees set as standard. You can be alerted when there are major or minor deviations within the battery cells on your battery, which is very important. And coming over here to pilot behavior, we have our different types of alerts we can set for our pilots that are flying for us. Takeoff battery, landing battery, less than a certain amount. If they're flying past a certain distance, higher than a certain altitude, this is a great way for you guys to be in the know about what's happening with all of the pilots and equipment on your AirData account. We want you guys to be hands off so you can focus on other things you need to do, but still be aware of what's taking place. All right, beautiful. So that's our alert section here. We're going to jump over to the pilots. These are the pilots that are on this AirData account. You can see my name down here. You can be some information about the pilot. So total flight hours. If I click on my name, I can see a little chart here showing when I flew last and how often I've flown, how many flights I've flown. Section up here, the document section. This is my 107 right here. I put when it expires. If I want to add any other docs, I do that here. And keep in mind, this is for each pilot. So, you know, if I have other pilots on my team and I'm an admin of this account, I can come in here and see when people's currency needs to be renewed. Great to be informed on that. That's our pilot section here. Let's go ahead and actually, before I move on, a little more about the pilots. If let's say I'm a one-man show, and then maybe I get some guys to come work for me, some other drone pilots, and I want to add them to my AirData account. It's very easy to do. Here on the top left, a couple of ways we can do it, but here under pilot, if I do that, perfect. This is a spot where I can fill out the information for that pilot that I'm at my AirData account. And very cool, I can assign permissions for that pilot. So if I only want them to be able to log in, but not see any of the other flights, I can do that. I can give them full account access. So great ways to basically assign various permissions for the pilots that you add to your AirData account. All right, let's go ahead and jump over to checklist. We're going to go through real quick. This is a lot to take in, but in a nutshell, we have pre and post flight checklists that you can customize for your operation. And you can make any or all of these questions required for the pilot to fill out. You can delete as many you want here. At the bottom, you can add a question if you want to add more than this. And how it works is once you've gone through and created this on your AirData mobile app, you'll open it up and complete the checklist, and AirData will automatically assign that checklist for that flight that you completed. So very, very quick and easy to complete a checklist. It's important that you fill out your template here. If you create your template, it will make a lot more sense when you're filling it out on your mobile app. So you have to fill out 50 questions if you don't want all of them. All right. And let's see here. Let's jump to our speaking of compliance, I know checklist falls under compliance, maintenance does, reports really does. We want to make sure that you guys are staying up to date, and our reporting system is a great way to do that. Basically, a report is accumulation of flight logs that you guys can customize. We want to give you as much control here as possible. I know we talked about flight tags in the beginning, and you can create reports just off of flight tags. We have other ways to do that. Under standard report, I'd like to just show you some of the information that you can include with a flight report. Under flight staying, this is how we filter what's coming into the report. For instance, you can filter participant. So if I only want flights here, I deselect other pilots. I can filter drones, so I can only select whatever drone it is that I want to include within this report for those logs. We talked about the tags. That's a great way to add the tag right here. If I go here under field display, I know this is a lot of information, and this is how you guys can go through and customize what's on your report that you create. You can see we have information from the flight participants that were included, the location of the flight, the wind, the checklist, a lot of great information here. Once you've gone through and done that, we'll display on the left-hand side, and you can download it. Various ways to download it: CSV, compatible with Excel, PDF. Once you've done this, and let's say that this is a report that you feel like your organization is going to do often, you're going to want to complete this, but you don't really want to go through and fill this out each time because that's a lot of info. You can save this as a template. When you do it, it'll show up here on the templates section. And under schedules, we can take this a step further, and we can schedule out any of the templates that you've created. With a schedule, that report will run automatically, and it will be sent to whoever you designate. So you can see here we have a couple of schedules that we've set. You can see when it was last run, when it runs next, how many times it was run. It's using this template for that schedule. We can edit this and choose the frequency at which we want the report to be ran. I think you guys get the point. We have a lot of customization here. And again, this is a great way to not be jumping in your AirData account every day, every other day to run reports and things of that sort. We can also make a code report and maintenance report as well. Lastly, I think you guys are doing great. We're almost there. I think I want to talk just a little bit about our My Account section. This is where you can go if you can't remember where something was on your AirData account. So on the left-hand side, you can see, and I apologize if the screen is not full on your end. It is full screen on mine. On the left-hand side, we have various topics that we've talked about on this webinar. You can quickly access various parts of the AirData site from this section. You can add any users and pilots you want to this account in this section as well. And lastly, I think I'll just mention that you can also, if you don't want to download our mobile app, you can add your Autel credentials here, and AirData can automatically retrieve your flight logs. So this is another great way to automatically have those flight logs come through to AirData. All right. I think I'll stop here, and if we have any questions, I'd be happy to address them. Or if Ron, if you want to talk about anything else.
Yeah, maybe let's see if anyone have any questions. Thank you, Trevor. That was a great demo.
Thank you.
Just on time.
Yeah. Maybe give it another minute or two, see if anybody has questions or feedback.
There's definitely a lot to take in. We would love for you guys to give it a shot and try everything yourself. I pasted a link in the chat for a free 30-day trial. Please give it a shot, see what you think, and we would love to help with any questions that may come up. There's a question, do you have a reseller program that promotes your software to my customers? Yes, we do. We're going to put a link in the chat, or we encourage you to reach out to us at info@airdata.com.
Trevor, Ron, I think we also have the user or the viewer poll if you want to pop that up on the screen here before we close out for the morning. Well, while we wait for a few of you to complete the poll there and wrap up any last questions you have, from the Autel side of this conversation, Keith Gerhardt and I are here to answer any questions that you might have about the Autel platform with the AirData platform. And we're grateful to Trevor and Iran and the entire AirData team for taking some time to sit with some of the Autel aircraft users. If you're currently not an Autel aircraft user and just starting to investigate, this webinar demonstrates one of the very powerful things that exist inside the Autel ecosystem. We are very much tied to a variety of manufacturers for different kinds of uses. And if you haven't had opportunity to fly one of our aircraft, either recreationally or for commercial work, we urge you to check out a demo from one of your dealers and get your hands on one, fly a little bit, get a little bit of airtime, and pump that data, that information into AirData and see how powerful your operation can become. Keith, is there anything you wanted to add before we begin to wrap this webinar?
No, I just want to thank everybody and certainly thank our friends over at AirData for a great presentation, and we look forward to it. And obviously, as I continue to deal with our dealers, some of which are on the call today, we'll be happy to answer any questions that we can about our AirData, or we will certainly provide the connection over to the AirData team to help facilitate those questions or purchase. And that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. Speaking of important things, though, one thing that and Trevor, if you mentioned this, I will apologize for bringing it up again. But many folks in the unmanned aircraft industry are unaware that some of the things that AirData collects for us are regulated by the FAA. In other words, we are required to keep records of our batteries per AC 107-3, in addition to other things. And 2021 is the year that the FAA has indicated they're going to bring about much more stringent logging requirements, which makes AirData even that much more viable and valuable to any unmanned pilot, regardless of the platform on which you're flying.
Awesome. Well, Darius, I appreciate you bringing that up. Yes, I think I did mention a little about how with the batteries in particular, when you're flying your EVOs, whatever Autel equipment you have, AirData is going to automatically track everything about that particular battery, how much airtime it has, how many charge cycles, how many flights it has on it. And to take that a step further, you can conduct maintenance and then create the reports based off of the data that's required there. So yes.
Look, anything that
Thank
helps
you
us be compliant with FAA regulation is a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Well, I think we've reached the end of our presentation. So, Ron, unless you've got anything that you want to add here, I think we can call it a morning. And thank everyone for taking the time out to attend the presentation this morning and spend a little bit of time with the folks at AirData and Autel. Thank you all very much.
Definitely. Thanks, everyone, and happy holidays.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Douglas.